One.
Greetings from the International Labour Organization and its cooperatives unit, where we are celebrating our centenary. On this occasion, we have the pleasure of speaking with a series of prominent cooperators from around the world. And we are very pleased to have with us today Professor Akira Kurimoto, who is the chair of the ICA Asia Pacific Research Committee and the former professor at the Institute for Solidarity-Based Society at Hosei University, Japan. Welcome, Professor Kurimoto.
Hi.
We would like to start by asking you how you got interested in working with and researching cooperatives. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. I joined a student committee of the University Cooperative when I was a student at the University of Tokyo amid the student protests in 1968. We were not radicals crying for university destruction, but pursued the democratic reform of the university. As a board member of the University COOP, I made efforts to promote the cooperative ideas among students, campaigning for consumer rights. After graduation, I joined the Japanese Consumers Cooperative Union, JCCU. After working at several sections, including Member Relations Department, Executive Office, and Planning Office, I became a manager of the International Department, newly set up to prepare for the Global Congress of the International Cooperative Alliance, ICA, in Tokyo in 1992. Then I moved to the Consumer Cooperative Institute of Japan, CCIJ, that is JCCU's research arm. During my career, I realized some differences between cooperatives in Japan and other countries, especially cooperatives in Western Europe and North America. So I have been interested in understanding why and how cooperatives were born and evolved differently. My research interests include the comparative cooperative laws and policies, the global cooperative history, the cooperative economics and management, and the social and solidarity economy, SSE. As far as my association with the ILO is concerned, I had often used the training manuals developed by the MATCOM project of the ILO to train cooperative managers in the developing countries, and collaborated with ILO's Coop Trade project to develop the trade links among cooperatives as a development officer at JCCU. I also took part in a law specialist conference in Geneva to prepare for the ILO's new recommendation on cooperative promotion in 2002. In more recent years, I participated in the SSE Academy in Montreal in 2011 and the IACA ILO Research Conference in Antalya, Turkey in 2015. It has also a pleasure and honor to work with the ILO COOP in preparing a working paper on locking labor banks, the Japanese cooperative banks set up by trade unions and consumer cooperatives, and a brief on statistics of cooperatives in Japan. That is my association with the ILO in these years.
Yes, I recall, Professor Kurimoto, we first met in 2012, the International Year of Cooperatives. It was at the Quebec City, the International Summit of Cooperatives. I think that was our first time meeting. It was an International Cooperative Alliance Committee on Cooperative Research Conference, and you were presenting there. I think you were presenting maybe on health cooperatives at that time. Yes. That was my first encounter with the Japanese health cooperative initiative. So I learned a great deal from you, reading from you about Japanese cooperative movements. I wanted to ask you about the Institute of Solidarity-Based Society. I think you were one of its founders. You established it in 2015, 5 years ago. And it's an interesting collaboration, isn't it? Because it brings the Japanese trade union movement together with cooperative and civil society organizations. That's how it started. Could you tell us about the establishment of this institute, why you started it, and who are the students? What does it hope to achieve?
Yes, there is a background of creating this institute, that is, the increasing poverty and widening disparity among people have been threatening socioeconomic sustainability under economic globalization and information technology. Now that insecurity and uncertainty have become a normal state of everyday life due to the economic model based on the market fundamentalism, we need wisdom, power, and actions of people who demonstrate solidarity for mutual and general interests. The ideas of the SSE or the third sector are presented to remedy some part of the market imperfections, while growing attention is being paid to social enterprises in tackling with social exclusion. The origin of these organizations dates to the time of the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. To solve the miserable state of life brought by the dominant political and social system, workers organized into trade unions and cooperatives for solidarity, while non-profits were born from religious institutions and charities to provide reliefs to the poor. Despite the differences in their purposes or orientation, for instance, mutual versus general interests, and means, economics versus political actions. These organizations, I mean trade unions, cooperatives, and nonprofits, share a vision of the solidarity-based society, which brings together individuals and organizations divided by competition. It was in this context that the Institute for Solidarity-Based Society was established in April 2015. As a postgraduate school at the Hosei University, Tokyo, to create a better understanding of larger solidarity-based organizational barriers. Beyond organizational barriers, this name, Institute for Solidarity-Based Society, was coined by my idea. The ISS aims to develop further future leaders in nonprofits, NGOs, social enterprises, cooperatives, and trade unions who pursue social and general interests through solidarity, who can combine policy formulation and implementation skills to build a solidarity-based society. It was built on the initiative of the Japan Trade Union Confederation, Rengo, Japan Labor Culture Corporation, and JCCU, and Insurance Corp Federation, and labor banks, and other interest organizations. It works as a graduate school for cadres of trade unions, cooperatives, and nonprofits. When it was created 5 years ago, ILO's Director General, Guy Ryder, kindly sent a congratulatory message.
Yes, I recall that. You're also the chair of the International Cooperative Alliance's Asia Pacific Research Committee. What are some of the current areas of focus and priority for this committee? Could you tell us, please?
Okay. The ICA Committee on Cooperative Research for Asia and the Pacific was born in 1998 and organized biennial or annual research conferences since the year 2000. Its constitution reads, the overall aim of the committee shall be to promote and support the initiation and the furtherance of research activities within cooperatives and research organizations at regional, national, and local levels, so as to enhance their social and economic effectiveness. As such, Its mission is to provide liaison between cooperatives and academics. Its current focus includes analysis of the legal and policy frameworks, case studies of success and failure cases, and cooperative contribution to the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. The committee seeks to build a cooperative scholarship in the region, since researchers have been by and large isolated from each other or from cooperative practices. So a few researchers set up the Pacific Cooperative Research Partnership as a voluntary group to further cooperative research in the region in 2014, and collaborated for the publication of the edited volume of Waking the Asia-Pacific Cooperative Potential, which has just come out from Elsevier, Oxford this June. It includes the contributions from 34 academics from Asia-Pacific region. Our purpose of this book is to provide a review of how cooperatives across the region have overcome difficulties, succeeded or failed, and point the way for renaissance in cooperative research and analysis. This book offers thoughtful and well-researched accounts on how cooperative model worked and what it can contribute to the sustainable development of the economy, society, and environment. It introduced some successful cooperatives in Asia Pacific. Many of them are not known in the West and even amongst many people in the East as well.
Congratulations on your book. We have also received it at the ILO library as an ebook and look forward to reading it. We also are featuring it in our electronic newsletter. I was wondering, what are the disciplinary backgrounds of the researchers that are engaged in cooperative research in the Asia-Pacific region? Is it lawyers, economists, sociologists, more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary people? What is the background, for instance, in this co-edited volume?
I must say, they are mostly economists and management theorists or management studies. And there are some legal scientists and sociologists and very few historians. So this is just mixture of the research disciplines. But the problem is that they are very much isolated in each country. And there is very weak liaison collaboration amongst researchers. They often look at the researchers in the West, in Europe, in the North America, but they never have the chance to see each other's works. So this is a reason why we have founded the ICA's Committee on Cooperative Research in Asia Pacific, is to have the collaboration amongst these isolated researchers and to establish more viable links with other world, for instance, Europe, Americas, and Africa. That is the reason why we have created this research committee in the region.
As you said, Asia Pacific region has its own unique trajectory, institutional, cultural, yes, political, in how cooperatives and the wider social and solidarity economy is evolving. Could you tell us a little bit around how you see the social and solidarity economy in the Asia Pacific region? Some other regions may be a little bit more advanced in their policies, institutions, or research on this, like Latin America or Europe. In Asia, perhaps it's a little bit, Asia Pacific, it might be a little bit more nascent still. If you could share with us some insights.
Okay. So far, there is no internationally agreed definition of the SSE, but it can be seen as an extension of the cooperative sector, a concept which was originally coined by George Fouquet, the first chief of the ILO COOP. I am very proud of that. And rediscovered by Alex Redrow, a Canadian, in his seminal work, Cooperatives in the year 2000. It is an approach to a more just and resilient society to contribute to the SDGs. It is institutionalized in some countries in Europe, Americas, especially Latin America, but very few in Asian countries. I must say, just we can hear some stories, some news items from the Philippines, for instance. Very few, other than Philippines, and recently South Korea. Very prominent example of the SSE, research and practice. And it is now recognized within the UN system through the establishment of the UN Interagency Task Force on the SSE. However, it has extremely low recognition by governments, media, and academia in Japan, unfortunately, due to the political economy and legal administrative system. Its main component, namely cooperatives and nonprofits, are divided by specific laws and competent ministries. For instance, cooperative laws, we have more than 10 cooperative laws, but there is no basic or fundamental laws on cooperatives, just segregated by the industrial policies. That is, there is no umbrella organizations representing their common interests in cooperatives and nonprofits. This is one of the reasons why the notion of cooperative sector has not been popular in Japan. Having said that, I recognize a few potentials. The National Council of Workers' Welfare, Rofukyo, a network of trade unions and worker-oriented cooperatives, celebrated its 70th anniversary last year. Since the year 2000, it has rejuvenated its activities from tackling social exclusion caused by accumulated debts and student loans to promoting a safety net for the people in need and decent work. Rofukyo, that is a coalition of the trade unions and cooperatives, can become one of the hubs to promote SSEs. The other potential can be seen in the Japan Cooperative Alliance, JCA, set up just 2 years ago by most of the Japanese cooperative federations to promote cooperation among cooperatives across sectors and strengthen cooperative presence through research and development and publicity. It took over the Japan Joint Committee of Cooperatives set up in 1956, the National Committee for the International Year of Cooperatives set up in the 2010. I hope these networks can play a vital role in promoting the SSE in Japan.
Thank you, Professor Kurimoto. These secondary, tertiary level institutions of cooperatives, but also alliances, as you said, across different movements from cooperative movement, worker movement, youth, women. These are essential, especially in this time of change, whether this is climate change, demographic changes, technology, and we are living in the middle of an unfolding public health crisis with the COVID-19 pandemic. What do you think are the ways the cooperative and the wider social and solidarity economy can contribute to the responding to these changes, especially in Japan and across the Asia Pacific region?
Okay. There are many ways that cooperatives can contribute to responding to changes and crises through providing essential and affordable goods and services, including health and social care and financial services. They have done this in many ways, but now they are facing an unprecedented paradigm shift combined with a globalization paradox, as Danny Roderick put it. On hyper-globalization, a major brake has been put, as we witness everywhere. Cooperatives can play a key role, particularly in enhancing self-sufficiency of food, making fairer distribution of income, and providing health care and integrated community care for elderly people and people with disabilities and children. They can also help people to enhance their literacy in finance and insurance so that workers and citizens decent works and healthier life. In addition to that, I must add some very great contributions cooperatives had done in these 20 years. You may listen to about the great earthquake in Kobe in 1995 and East Japan earthquake and tsunami in the year 2011. On these occasions, cooperatives had done great contribution to help people to save their life, and then to help them to rehabilitate their ordinary life, including industry, the production process. They have done great many, especially consumer cooperatives in Kobe had helped people. They have big victims of the earthquake. More than 5,000 people had died out of that, and the infrastructure had totally destroyed. And on the first day of the earthquake, consumer cooperatives had helped people to recover their lives, and they have made joint efforts with the administration, the governments, local governments. They have concluded agreements with local governments to supply the emergency goods like food, water, and blankets to the shelters set up by the government. So this had played a very great role in helping people, not only people, but also the governments. And this case has been very much broadcast, and one newspaper had described that there was a COP in the devastated area. That happened again in 2011 when the people had lost their lives, their houses, their infrastructure. Cooperatives had helped them in a great many in a large part of the world of Japan had rescued the people in the devastated area with their mini van with the supplies, and they have helped local people, and they encouraged the devastated people to rehabilitate their lives. So in this regard, the cooperatives had done great many. Nowadays, in the pandemics, coronavirus pandemics, many cooperatives are doing very good jobs for securing food. Agricultural consumer cooperatives are securing food to the people. Nowadays, people cannot go to shop so often, so consumer cooperatives are delivering food at home, and agricultural cooperatives are securing food production. It's very great. And healthcare cooperatives, both in rural and urban settings, they are in the forefront in combating with the virus, the pandemics. So in this field, cooperatives can do many things in helping people to solve that great challenges put by the globalization, technology change, and pandemics, etc.
Thank you. Professor Kurimoto, as you gave the examples from natural disasters to the pandemic, cooperatives not only step up during the crisis, but their value is recognized more during the crisis. We saw this during the also global financial crisis of 2007-8, Greek debt crisis, Argentinian financial crisis. But how do you think the contribution of cooperatives as community-based, member-driven, democratic, solidarity-based organizations, enterprises be better recognized as part of the economic fabric of pluralist economy, so to speak? What do you think by society, by policymakers?
Yes, it's true that cooperatives are not recognized well by politicians, by academics and media. There are many reasons. We are not good at presenting ourselves to the public because cooperatives is a mutual organization. We are facing each other, member to member, member to manager, but not member to outside. So that is one reason. And because of the institutional divide of the cooperatives and non-profits, we are not recognized as one sector, one cooperative sector. We are just recognized as consumer cooperatives or agricultural cooperatives, very much sector-wise. So there are many reasons. And I think cooperative managers and members should know about the cooperative contribution to the global issues like food and food security and health and social care and secure banking and insurance services. So if they recognize the cooperative laws in making people's life easier, they can understand the value of cooperation and they can put those cooperative values to the other people so that the cooperatives can be recognized more widely. In this regard, I think the cooperative scientists, cooperative researchers should play more vital role to promote the idea of cooperation in the existing disciplines, economics, sociology, history, and legal studies. And in these disciplines, cooperatives are very minor subjects, but we should place more emphasis that cooperatives can do in to better the people's life. And we have done many things, especially the cooperatives had demonstrated its resilience thanks to the ILO's publication. That is, I recognize very well. Johnson Birchall and Lou Hammond Ketilson, both my great friends, had published a book, a leaflet on the
cooperatives in times of crisis.
Yes, in times of crisis. the resilience of the cooperative model. And that had been a great contribution to the recognition of the cooperatives. And thanks to that publication of the ILO, the United Nations had decided to declare the year of the International Year of Cooperation, 2012. So in this regard, ILO had done a very good job, I must say.
Thank you. I think that publication, in fact, was followed by another one in the International Year of Cooperatives by Johnston Birchall, Resilience in a Downturn, the power of financial cooperatives in 2012, which was, I think, translated to Japanese by the Shinkin Central Bank. They had done different in their different volumes. You mentioned, Professor Kurimoto, the contribution of the ILO, and you gave the example of this publication. What do you think is the value added of the ILO, the International Labour Organization, as a United Nations agency, which has had this cooperative service cooperation section since 1920? What do you think is its value for the cooperative movement, cooperative researchers like yourself?
Yes, there are some UN agencies who are dealing with the cooperatives like ILO, FAO, UNCTAD, UNIDO, etc. But I think ILO is playing a very prominent role in promoting cooperatives in the UN system. Thanks to the Albert Thoma, first Secretary General of the ILO, they have created a cooperative branch, cooperative unit in 1920. And we are now celebrating 100 years. And thanks to this cooperative unit, the ILO had played a very unique role, which is very, which has great contribution to the promotion of cooperatives. I am saying not only the resolution of the ILO 1966 and 2002, yes.
2002.
But the ILO COOP unit is playing a very important role in disseminating information on the cooperatives in many parts of the world. We can know what is happening in other parts of the world through the ILO COOP newsletter. And also, you are making many initiatives to create the statistical guidelines that is done by the ILO's initiative. And also, in the past, I have often utilized the database of the cooperative legislation in the ILO's COOP unit. So there are many things you have done to promote the cooperatives as a whole. So I do hope you can continue such a service in the future.
You say another 100 years?
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Kurimoto, for giving us your time and sharing your thoughts with us. And we look forward to having the opportunity to meet you in person in the ILO COOP 100 Symposium in November.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.